Hello, welcome. So today we're going to learn the clip masking techniques in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, okay? Now, I'm not just going to teach you just the clip masking techniques in these two tools. I'm also going to teach you some other techniques and other styles or style guides you will need to apply when making a clip mask in either your flyer or your other kind of designs. So in this, we have an image, and this image is actually in a circle, but this is not actually the right shape of this image. Let's see what this look like. So we're going to pull this image outside the shape, and we see that this image is actually a square. Now, assuming the circle size or the circle shape simply means, let's pull this to be the base color here. So this simply means that we are actually allowing this image assume the shape of that circle. So this, you can do this in Photoshop, you can also do this in Adobe Illustrator, but we're going to do it in these two tools, and I'm going to show you how simple it is and how simple it is also to modify a clip mask. Possibly you want to swap an image, you want to do some other kind of design styling or style guides. So now we have this image. Let's pull this back to make back our clip mask as we have it. Now in Photoshop, you will need to place the image above the element you want to clip mask it on, but in Illustrator you don't need to do that. You need to place the image at the back of the element or the shape you want to place it on. So we are going to pull this to the back, the image to the back, and having the shape above it. So place the shape or the image to the part you want it to actually work on. Then you have to select the two elements, click option and clip mask. We are good to go. Okay, now what if you want to rearrange this image? In Photoshop, if you click on a clip mask, you can actually drag around the element. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's zoom closely here. So watch closely. When we drag around this, we can actually move around the image inside of the element which is guiding it, the parent element I'm talking about. But in Adobe Illustrator, it's totally something different. So we want to understand, how do we move this image around? Okay, so what you do simply is to head over to your element from over here. Okay, select on just the image. You can expand this, which is the clip mask group. Since an element is clip mask, it's assumed that it is grouped. Okay, so expand it by clicking this arrow pointing to the right. It will now drop down. Then select on the image, not just clicking on the image, select on the end part. Okay, when you select on the end part, you can point actually on the particular element layer you are talking about or you are referring to. So now we've pointed at that particular layer. Next thing we need to do is to now move our image around. We have the ability to rearrange the image as we want. And whenever we click out and try to click again, we are selecting the group, because when you use a selection tool, you are selecting all group. But when you use a direct selection tool, you are selecting only the image or the element you are clicking on. You can select only the image you are clicking on. Okay, so one way to move around your elements the way you want is by expanding this and selecting the image element only, or by selecting the direct selection tool. Direct selection tool means you want to directly point to that particular element wherever it is. Okay, so those are two stuffs you need to understand. What if we want to swap this image? We don't want to go through the process because we want to swap this image. Maybe you want to replace this image with this one here. Possibly we have an image that is larger than this. We just want the circle inside here to just show, not the blue edges. So what we do here, usually what we should do is to select on the image, locate the image location parts, okay, then drag it in between the ellipse tool and the image, which means we are putting it in between the circle and the image itself. Okay, we are putting in between the shape, which is the vector shape, and the image itself. So now we drag it across that place. We can now see that it is assuming the same shape which we want it to be. You get the point now? So this is one way to do it, but this is a difficult way to do it for beginners. Okay, so we are going to do it the easy way. So let's take, for instance, we have this image, not even this image. You can delete this now, or let's just leave it there. Now let's take, for instance, we want to replace this image here. What we need to do is simple. Go to the layer part, select on the image you want to replace. Just select on the image you want to replace. Head over to your Get to Files, okay? Click on Place. Let me zoom this closely so you can see it. Click on Place. And here you can select the image you want to place over that particular element. Click on it. Don't click on place, okay? Click on replace, this button, tick this button, replace, and click on place. Automatically that image will be replaced with the image which we just imported. So this is how you do stuff like this. Possibly we have stuff like this and want to replace a particular image from here. So click on it, scroll down till you find the part, select on the image itself, click on file, click on place, click on the image you want to place it with, possibly my own image. Click on the place and click on place. Automatically it will replace the same shape. Now you can increase the size to zoom it in and rearrange it the way you want it to be. So that's simply the simple trick on how to do this on Illustrator. This clip masking. Possibly you want to place an icon above a clip mask element. You can still do that. You can do it like so. Okay. But if you want to place this icon somewhere here, it's not going to be in between. It's not going to respect the rules of the parent element, which is the base vector layer, which is the main circle creating this shape. It's not going to respect the rule because this is on its own independent. It's not grouped into this. So the only way we can do that, to place it inside here, we can do it like so, if it is not going against the rule of the shape. But when it's pulling out of the shape, you may need to have to pull it into that particular clip mask inner section. So to do that, you can still get over to this part, drag it into the inner section and leave it there. That's all you need to do. So now you can now see that any part you pull it in, it is clip masked to that part. So this is it about clip masking in Illustrator. What about Photoshop? Let's head over to Photoshop and do the work from there. Like I said earlier before now, Photoshop clip masking, you can drag stuff around because Photoshop don't have direct selection tool or all of that. You just have the move tool, which you can use moving out an element as long as that element is not grouped with the other. So for instance, we click on this element, we can group it now with this other one. Okay, then we can now move them around together. But that's not the point for today's course or today's tutorial. Today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to clip mask element. So for that, we are going to delete this and also delete this. Okay, so we have a base element, so we have to put our circle above here, then we can start clip masking. How do we create a circle? You can do that from Illustrator, or you can also do that from Photoshop simply. So to do that in Illustrator, just draw a simple circle and we pull it in with the direct selection tool or the selection tool, whichever you think is perfect. Okay, let's fill this. This color is not filled, so let's fill it with the color and we can pull it down there. Having an issue locating Photoshop. Fine. So now we located Photoshop, drop it in there. Okay, so it is below the element which we want to style it with. So what we're gonna do is to place it above the element. So drag it above all elements to start with. Then we can now start styling our stuff. So make sure you reduce it to the size which you want. Now let's start clip masking. So to drop a clip mask here, not the same way we did in the previous one. The previous one, we have to drop the shape above the image. But in this one, we have to drop the image above the shape. So we have dropped the shape, so we have to drop the image above it. That's a simple two tricks. Okay, so reduce the size. Sorry about that. Reduce the size. Reduce the size. Perfect. I think this is okay. Now you've reduced the size. In Photoshop, in Illustrator, you have to select the two elements before you can click on the clip mask. But in Photoshop, you don't need to do that. Just place the element above the shape itself. Let me show you what that means. So this element is here. We are placing it above this shape over here. So this is the shape and this is the element we are styling in. We are not selecting the two of them and clicking on clip mask. We can't do that, okay? So what you need to do is just place it above the element itself. If you wanted to clip mask on this, if you place this here and clip mask it, it won't work because this is not directly proportional to that particular element area or layer. So now we place it above directly above the circle, which is the shape we created. Place it above that. Then click on the image, option on the image, and click on clip mask. Create clip mask, okay? So click on that, automatically the clip mask is created. We can now rearrange the image by reshaping it or expanding the image size, okay? And that is how we create the clip mask. Now you want to add shadows and all of that effect to the clip mask element. You have to do that with the element below, not the image itself. So we want to add a shadow, double click on that, click a drop down shadow, and we can start styling it the way we want. Okay, just take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. Cool. So let's just make this purple, since I think I love that color so much. Reduce the opacity. We are going to talk about, I'm going to teach you guys how to make a very cool shadow, very wonderful shadow. If you actually want that tutorial, just let me know. I'll teach you guys how to make shadows. As you can see in this element, we have shadows revolving on it. See the shadow below the flag Nigeria. I see the shadows below the flag for Canada. Okay, but that's not the next course. Okay, so that's all about it in clip masking. Want to place an element above it, just place the element above it, then clip mask it. For this one, for Photoshop, it's totally different placing elements above it. So let's try one other element. Possibly want to place this icon above that element. Drag that icon in, okay? I usually make this mistake thinking it is Illustrator. So drag that icon in. Now in this Photoshop area, watch closely. It is not the same style as the Illustrator. This time around, you just need to just drag it in between the clip mask elements. Clip mask style shows this particular arrow at this part. See this arrow here? That's the sign of a clip masked element. Okay, so place the image in between that element. That is all you need to do. Okay, now we've placed that image in between that element. We can see clearly that we can't even find the image anymore. Why? Because the image is below the image that is above the whole element. So this Z index shows this, called Z index actually. Z index simply means an element priority over other, or the element that is above every other element. Okay, so the Z index of the image above here is greater than the Z index of the image below it. So to make the Z index of the image below it greater than the one above it, we have to drag the image above it, below it. Simple. Okay, so you see that the Z index above now is greater than the one below. So the logo itself is now replacing the image. Whenever we switch this over again, we still get the same distance. Z index move over. So that's how to switch stuff. The same applies to Illustrator too. Okay, so our next course is not the shadow element and stuff like that. We can also add that if we wish to, but our next course is to create how to create this mesh tool. This particular tutorial was actually proven, or actually forced into me to do by a student called Elpraise. Elpraise, you did very wonderful well to keep reminding me of this. I'm sorry I've left the YouTube channel for a very long time, almost a month or two now. So I'm back, so we need to start up from where we stopped. Okay, so the next course possibly will be how to create this mesh tool. This one was requested by a student called Sharif, okay? Dean Sharif. You did well to keep reminding me about this. Thank you very much. I've pinned your request and I'll be treating that in the next course. We're going to learn how to create this. Let me show you an example of what that looked like, or what it feels like. So this is the particular mesh tool, how to create mesh tools like this. We are going to learn how to create mesh tools. It's very, very simple to do. Very simple to create mesh tools. I'm going to teach you guys how to create mesh tools, not just how to create mesh tools, okay? But I'm going to teach you the techniques behind creating a mesh tool. Okay, the technique is the most important part of creating a mesh tool, not just actually creating the mesh tool. You have to understand the techniques and which background you are using a mesh tool on before you start creating. As you can see, we have a black mesh tool and we have a white mesh tool. Now, for instance, we've gone into Photoshop, we go to the background and we place this mesh tool, the dark one actually, we place it in the part that we have the white mesh tool. Forget about the text color, okay? I know you are looking at that. Just forget about text color. Just observe closely. You see the feel, you see the look, the feel on this particular design. The design we have in the front end are white. It won't work perfectly well with a mesh tool which is black. Mesh tool that is white work perfectly well with design styles of white. Okay, we're going to treat that clearly. I'm going to teach you guys the little secrets you need to understand in creating mesh tools and for what particular styles you need to create a particular mesh tool for. So that is it for today's tutorial.